Rudy Giuliani is firing back at White House insider reports that President Trump is frustrated with his headline-grabbing media blitz, creating confusion and potentially legal vulnerability for Mr. Trump. Giuliani telling NBC's Kristen Welker today the president is encouraging him to do more TV interviews and that the president is very comfortable with the strategy that they are pursuing. Joining me now is Roger Stone, longtime Trump confidant, former Trump campaign advisor, and author of the new book, Stone's Rules: How to Win at Politics, Business, and Style. Roger, welcome. Good to see you again.
Andrea, thanks very much for having me.
I was wondering what you think about the Rudy Giuliani media blitz. He says that it's working. There are a lot of reports, credible reports, including our own Kristen Welker's, that the president is not happy about it and wants him to check his facts, get things straight, or else might lose confidence in him. What do you think?
I have not heard that from credible sources around the president. I think it is fair to say that Mayor Giuliani is a very tough guy, and right now I think the president needs a tough leader on his legal team. I also think that listening to his interview with Judge Giuliani on Fox, which was mostly focused on the broader questions of the special counsel's inquiry, its legality, its actions, and so on, I think he's done an excellent job. His handling of the Michael Cohen Stormy Daniels matter, I found a little disjointed, meaning I had trouble following largely what he was trying to say. I'm not an attorney, but I don't believe Mr. Cohen's payment, just an opinion, is illegal. I don't know about the issue of reimbursement. But beyond that, I think that he has done a good job of getting the focus on the fact that we don't have a special counsel law in place. The three-judge panel that would normally overlook the expansion of an inquiry doesn't exist. Mr. Rosenstein, therefore, assumes that authority. He has a prior association with Mr. Mueller. He refuses to share information with the co-equal branch of government, violation of the separate powers. This is very troubling, and I think Giuliani's done a good job of illustrating a lot of these issues for the American people.
Well, Mr. Rosenstein has shared a lot of information, but there is privileged information that should not be shared about targets of an investigation. That said,
but what he says is that it would expose national security, and that I find curious in itself. I think it's ready for the Congress can demand transparency.
But the fact is that Rudy Giuliani has exposed the president to possible legal questions because he's contradicted the president's past statements. The president said, well, he's just new to this, he'll get his facts straight. All that said, should the president now sit down with Robert Mueller? Should he give an interview?
I have thought that he should not. Frankly, that question, that opinion was magnified when I read that New York Times front page piece. I'm curious as to how that leaked. I don't buy the claim that it came from one of the Trump lawyers. I don't believe that's true. But the nature of those questions, the structure of those questions, one of them admittedly pertaining to me, I find troubling. They were a perjury trap. This was quite obviously an obstacle course for the president to try to pick through without making some misstatement. Look, I don't think there is any evidence whatsoever of Russian collusion or conspiracy or coordination. Not with the Trump campaign or with Donald Trump or his associates. So now he appears to be looking at other matters. Since two Justice Departments, both Republican and Democrat, have ruled that a sitting president cannot be indicted, then the only purpose of this inquiry has to be removing Donald Trump from office.
Well,
in other words, undoing the results of the last election.
Let's talk about the Russian connection, because there have been, a number of instances with Manafort, with others, with, Jared Kushner and others meeting with Russians, talking to Russians, Papadopoulos, there are plenty of connections. We don't know about collusion, but we certainly know that there have been conversations and connections with, key figures. First of all, have your own connections. You said in October, on two occasions in October, the 3rd and the 5th, that that WikiLeaks was going to go after Podesta. Then 2 days later, the Podesta email is dumped. What did you know about that at the
I have
time?
to stop you, Andrea. I never said anything of the kind. In fact,
well, you tweeted that you have total confidence that WikiLeaks and my hero Julian Assange will educate the American people soon. Lock her up. And then on October 5th, you tweeted, "Payload coming. Lock them up." And then 2 days later, the Podesta email drops. So what else were you referring to?
Coincidence. Let's go back to the previous tweet, which is crucial. I said the Podestas, apostrophe S, should have been S. They tell me time in the barrel will come. I was referring to the Podesta brothers. Their shady Russian business dealings having been fully reported in the Panama Papers in April in 2016. They have come to my attention in an opposition research memo. Manafort is being roasted for his activities in Eastern Europe, mostly being fed to the media by Clinton operatives, yet Tony and his brother are there in plain sight, and that is what I was predicting. By the way, those stories and the Podesta's business dealings, gas, banking, so on, were reported later by the Wall Street Journal, by Bloomberg. So time in the barrel refers specifically to public scrutiny. I never said anything about his tweets.
So just a coincidence that 2 days later, voila, the Podesta emails drop, of course, only, within minutes of the Access Hollywood tape. Now, the Wall Street Journal reported last month.
The answer to your question is yes. That would be based on conjecture, supposition, but there's no evidence that would suggest that that is what I was speaking to. I never said anything of the kind.
The Wall Street Journal reported last month in an email that they obtained on August 4th, 2016, that you wrote, "I dined with my new pal Julian Assange last night." Is that true?
Well, it's true that they reported that. I've addressed this in the Washington Post and numerous other networks. Let's make it clear. Sam Nunberg was working for Donald Trump, and I was working with him. When Sam would work with you, he would sometimes call you 20 and 30 times a day. He's quite neurotic. Late one Friday, when I was trying to get him off the phone, he said, "Do you have plans for the weekend?" And I said, "I think I will fly to London and dine with Julian Assange." The Washington Post misquotes what I actually said. And I hung up with him.
You were joking.
It's shtick, please. Now, my passport, customs records, airline records, the security cameras at the Ecuadorian embassy, my hotel bill, my airline bills to Los Angeles, and a receipt from Izzy's Diner on Santa Monica Boulevard would show you that I was not in London that weekend and could not have met with Assange. And to anticipate a follow-up question, no, neither by Skype or phone either.
Now, you've had no contact with the Mueller people, no inquiry from them to have a conversation?
I'm sorry, because of the earpiece, I lost your question.
Have the Mueller people been in touch with you at all?
I have not been interviewed or been contacted by the special counsel's office.
And you were not a go-between with Guccifer, with WikiLeaks, or anybody else at any time?
That is correct. I mean, again, I don't buy into the premise that Guccifer is indeed a Russian asset. I think that is unproved. Just because MSNBC and other media outlets say it.
Mike Pompeo is the source for that. Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary, Secretary of State and former CIA director,
unfortunately,
says that they are agents of a foreign service, which is Russia.
Right. The evidence, Mr. Pompeo, that our intelligence agencies have been politicized. This is, in my opinion, an open question. There's vigorous debate on it on the internet. Guccifer 2.0, whoever that is using software that is registered to a person who works at the Democratic National Committee. A number of counterterrorism IT experts, in a great piece published by The Nation, question whether the DNC was ever hacked, or whether the information, the purloined information, was taken out the back door through some kind of portable computer drive. So it is unproven at best, but in all honesty, it's irrelevant, because my only 24-word communication with him happened 6 weeks after WikiLeaks has already published the allegedly hacked emails. Consequently, I could not have colluded with him to do so. It's chronologically impossible. And I made that exchange on Twitter entirely public. Who would conduct international espionage on Twitter?
So you disagree with Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State and former CIA director,
and Mr.
Brennan
and Mr. Clapper. I think Julian Assange does what you do. He is a journalist, and when he finds what he believes to be authenticated as the truth, he prints it, just as you do. We can't celebrate the Washington Post's publication of classified documents in the Vietnam War and say that we should jail Assange for publishing classified documents that expose misdeeds of the government.
And have you spoken to the president recently? When was the last time you talked to him?
I have not spoken to him recently, but even if I had, I would not talk about the contents of our conversation. The last time I spoke to him, which is a while ago, he was very upbeat. He was very positive. This idea that he's angry or rattled, I've seen no evidence of it, and I've known him, almost 40 years. When the president calls you, in all honesty, he does most of the talking. You do most of the listening, as you know. And he was very upbeat on the economy, 3% economic growth, and so on.
Roger Stone, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our apologies for that earpiece. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We made it work.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.